All right, let's implement the game over stuff for when we hit the green bars on the top and the bottom there. So let's go to, go to our functions here. Remember, we're in our run game function. And our run game function moves the helicopter, moves the walls, draws the game. We now want to check collisions, right? So again, just really a huge focus in this tutorial is the idea of breaking up your code into these functions, right? The logical functions. We move the helicopter, we move the walls, we check collisions, we draw the game. This function doesn't exist yet, but that's what I want to do. I want to check collisions, and that's going to be the job of this function. So move heli, move walls, let's put it underneath there. And the way I try to organize my functions is often this way, right? Here's the parent function almost, right? The one that's calling all these other ones. So I'll put them right below this function. So it's kind of a logical sequence. All right, so right here, function check collisions. And this is where I'm going to check collision with the top green bar, or the top and bottom green bars. And I'm not going to do this, but this is also where I would write code to check collision with the walls. Okay. And that's up for you guys to do. Okay, so top and bottom green bars. This is actually pretty straightforward. The top bar has a height of 50. So as soon as the Y value of my helicopter is less than 50, right? I know I've gone too high. So if heli.y is less than 50, right? Y is the top left corner. Then, you know what? The functions are so critical here, I'm going to call a game over function. Not the draw game over function, the game over function, which is going to take care of, let's put that down here, care of everything that I want to do when it's game over. For now, we're not going to do a lot, but we will do more later. This is where we'll play the explosion sound. This is where the most important thing I'm going to do right now is where we change the state of the game. Right? I collided with that top. I don't want to run the game anymore. I want to go to game over state, and it draws the game over screen. Okay, so let's do that. Sorry, back to here. State is assigned game over. All right, so right now this doesn't seem like much use of this function. I could just gone state as game over right here, but you'll see we're going to do more stuff here. And then you're also going to want to call this game over function when you collide with the walls. Right? If you collide with wall 1, you'll call game over. If you collide with wall 2, you'll call game over. Right? So we're going to reuse this code. And there will be more than just one line of code in the future. But let's just test this out first. So this check collisions, remember, I'm in run game. Run game is running over and over again. So every frame, I move the helicopter, I move the walls, I check collisions. And then I draw the game. So it constantly keeps checking, is this true, is this true, is this true? Once this is true, I say game over. State will be assigned game over, which means when the draw function goes, it's not going to call run game anymore, because the state is now game over. It's going to call the draw game over. Let's hope that works. Okay, here we go. And if I go too high, okay, awesome. So good, game over, right? Now, unfortunately, this circle here is drawn where the helicopter was and not where it currently is. That's an easy fix though. Okay, and now this is where the beauty of our organization is, right? Where do I want to go? I want to go to the draw game over function because that's where I know it draws the game over stuff. And this circle around the helicopter is just being drawn with a center of 240, 270. I want that center to be the center of the helicopter. So just remember, the helicopter is a rectangle. XY is the top left corner. It has a width of 80 and a height of 40. So to get to the center, I want to take the X coordinate and add half the width. All right, and the Y value and half the height. And that will get me half the width, half the height will get me to the center. Okay, so let's go heli.x plus heli.width divided by 2, half the width. I could just go 40 here, but what if I decide to change the size of the helicopter? Then if I'm using the variables, then it'll just automatically work. And then this is y plus heli.height divided by 2. And now, hopefully, when I hit the wall, yay, it centers around the thing there. It says game over. And everything else is stopped, right? We're not moving the walls anymore because the move walls was called from the run game function, and I'm no longer calling the run game function. I'm calling the draw game over. All right, awesome. Okay, now what else has to happen? Oh yeah, this gets fun. Because now it's just sitting here. And the way the game's supposed to work is supposed to sit here for like 2 seconds and then go back to the start screen. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use a built-in JavaScript function called setTimeout. setTimeout. It's kind of like an event listener. You know how in our event listeners we give it the name of a function, and then once the event happens, it calls that function. So I don't have a function yet, but we're going to have a function called reset. And then the next thing we do, so see this here, the setTimeout has a handler. That handler is the function that's going to be run when the event happens. The next thing is a timeout, which is a number, and it's a time in milliseconds. So if I want 2 seconds to elapse, I have to go 2,000 milliseconds. So all this means is basically says after 2 seconds go, this timer is going to go off and it's going to call the reset function. The reset function does not exist. I want to put the reset function down below under, I want to put it as the first thing in my helper functions. And this doesn't, like this is just up to you, right, where you group things, but I view this as kind of a helper function. And right now, let's just go console.log reset just to make sure that it works. Right? So the game over function gets called once because we change the state to game over, then we set our timeout, and then this check collisions never happens again, and it starts doing the draw game over stuff. So after 2 seconds, it should call the reset function. Let's try. So bam, 1,000, 2, 1,000, reset. Awesome. Okay, so that's a nice little delay. Now, what do I want to do with my reset? State is assigned start. I want to go back to the start screen. Let's try that. Okay, boom, 1,000, 2, 1,000, and I go back to the start screen. Now you'll notice, hold on a second, why is my helicopter all the way up there? It's supposed to be down here. And, oh, and then when I start, I die right away because I've collided. Okay, so in our reset, we have to do more than just change the state to start. We need to reinitialize things, right? We want our helicopter to go back to its starting position. We want all of the walls to go back to their starting positions, right? Because if I died later on, the walls would be wherever they currently are, right? We want them to go back to the beginning. So here again, and we want state to be start. Mouse is pressed, we don't need to reset that. That goes on and off on its own. The image stuff we only need to do once. So these global variables we only need to do once. These variables here are my global variables that need to get reset. Right? The state has to go back to start, the helicopter and the walls need to go back to where they belong. So here's what we're going to do. This is exciting. I'm going to take all of this code and I'm going to put it inside of my reset function. So my reset function. Okay. And now here's where this gets a little tricky. We're going to learn a little bit about the word let. Let is when I create a new variable. And if I create a new variable inside of a function, the variable only exists inside of this function. That's going to be a big problem because I need the heli and the wall 1 and the wall 2 everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare these variables as global variables out here, but we're not going to give them values yet. We want to declare them global so that they're visible everywhere. And just to save some space, you're actually allowed to declare multiple variables on one line. So these walls, I'm going to do like this, right? You just declare about 3 variables. These I'll keep separate. These group naturally. But anyway, I'm going to declare these as global variables. This is where I create them. And then in here, I'm going to get rid of the let, which means that I'm not making a new variable. I'm accessing the global variable that I created, and I'm assigning it a value. And then I'm going to call the reset function here. So when the program first runs, I create my global variables, and then I call the reset function, which is going to give them all their initial values. Okay? And then we can reuse the reset function, right here, when I want to restart the game. I say reset, and then it'll initialize those variables again to their beginning spots. Okay, this is getting a little advanced stuff. These functions are powerful, but you got to wrap your head around the idea of them storing code, and then we can call that code. And then the whole global local variable thing is interesting. Just know that whenever you go left, that's when you're creating the variable. We want to create them globally. If we create them inside of here, they only exist inside of this function. Okay, now we're just saying, hey, that global variable, give it this value. Hey, that global heli variable, make it be this object. Okay, and I guess I should have semicolons at the end of these. Hey, technically this is one line of code, and we usually have semicolons at the end of our lines of code, unless it's a function or an if statement. Okay, all right, save that. JavaScript's weird though, it's optional, those semicolons. Okay, click to start, bam, game over, 2 seconds, I reset, the helicopter's back there, and the wall's back at the beginning. All right, so let's get 2 walls here, bam, game over, reset, and the wall start over. That's so cool. Okay, sweet. Now, and because we've done this with functions, this reset stuff should be so easy. This game over function, whenever you collide, oh yeah, actually let's just show you right here. Else if, right, if I don't hit the top wall, maybe the bottom of the helicopter, right, y plus the height of the helicopter will be the bottom of the helicopter. If that is greater than 550, but again, I'm going to do canvas.height minus 50. Just in case you change the height of the canvas, this code will still work then. Technically, the 50 could be the bar height. Anyway, so if I collide with the top wall, game over. If I collide with the bottom wall, easy. I just call the game over function. And the game over function will set the state to game over, which will make it draw the game over, and then set this timeout. So it's going to draw the game over screen, and then after 2 seconds, it'll reset, which will go the state back to start and reset the variables. Awesome. Let's make sure that works. And crash, game over, reset. Crash, game over, reset. Crash, game over, reset. Awesome. Okay. I hope this is making sense. We'll see you in the next video.